think you need an introduction. I think everybody knows who Zahra is, and with that, I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I remember meeting Sharon many years ago in one of those early career development. Jerry George was in the session. Several of these people have done incredibly well. They have mushroomed into or blossomed or grown into great scholars. So the question that Sharon asked me to talk about is how you develop and sustain your career as a scholar. The answer is I really don't know, but I know a couple of things. One, this is going to be a long-term marathon run. Don't run, just walk slowly, make sure that you get there. Number two, it is an issue of motivation, energy as much as it is talent and connections and all of this stuff. Three, people who stay longer are people who become engaged and in the profession. They become active in the profession. They give back to the profession. They give back as much or even more than they get. So this is something, so you don't hide in your office and assume writing papers will make you famous. It will make you famous, but your influence in the field is going to be not as much as you think. The most important thing that I'm going to tell you is, besides writing, besides thinking about great ideas, besides publishing, the most important thing for you is to have a life and enjoy your life. Do the right things. Maintain your energy. Energy is I know it sounds funny today, but you probably expected me to talk about the big conversations in the field, how to publish and all of this stuff. I will do that. But I really realized from watching a lot of people over a long period of time, it's an issue of energy. How you maintain your energy, how you maintain spiritual energy, emotional energy, physical energy. How do you get up every single day with all of these rejections coming in? One day I remember when I was an assistant professor, I still get these rejections. 6 rejections in one morning. I actually, word of honor, I remember that. I took this rejection, they used to come in hard copies and the reviewers were generous. Some of these letters were like very thick. I took them all, I went to bed, I did not get up, did not leave bed for almost like 24 hours. My wife actually felt sorry for me. This is probably the only time she felt sorry for me since. So how do you maintain that? Where does that energy come from? I really believe that is one of the biggest questions that we don't talk about. We talk about how you develop your research craft, and we should. We talk about how you collect data, how you analyze data, and all of this stuff, but it's the other things that really matter. So I'm gonna talk about these things a little bit, and then I'll get to talk about how you publish and how you all of these things. And I don't mind you asking me questions anytime. Anytime, stop me, and I'll be happy to do this. Okay, now technology and I are not always good friends. I essentially said this: have a life, stay focused, stay motivated, stay sane. This is a profession that a lot of very intelligent people die quickly. They kind of publish and perish, and they never come back. They're almost never resurrected. The reason is they exhaust their energy, they burn their bridges, they do a lot of stupid little things that actually does not keep them going. Okay, make sure that you renew your energy and growth. I'm going to talk about this. Every step of the way, you will find that your capabilities are becoming older, decaying, and you need to go back and renew through connections, collaborations, but also you might consider going back to school. A few years ago, about 3 years ago, I went back to the economics department where they do all of these fancy econometric things. I was sitting with our first year PhD students. I found it very amazing, but they were much better than me, honest. And I felt good because I'm learning from them. It was like, they actually thought the course was very important because I was there. I actually thought it was very intelligent. They were much smarter than me. These guys are smarter. So if you think about your career, there are multiple facets to your career. I don't know if the slides read well, or there is the technical side, the publishing and writing and all of this stuff. I'll talk about this. There is also the political side, how you establish your name, how you build your network, how you lay your claim to an area in the field. Also, how you get your institution, as some people have been talking about, to recognize and appreciate what you're doing. There is the organizational side. How do you manage it all? Teaching, researching, and all of this stuff. I noticed there are a number of things in the program that speak to that. So I'm not going to cover that in detail. But all of these things make for a research career. If you see some of the people who have been incredibly productive over a sustained long period of time, they have been among the busiest people in the field. They are busiest in terms of managing their productivity, teaching, they're doing executive education, they travel internationally, they have families, they have all of these other things. The question, how do you all put it together? The answer is very much you. You are going to have to find that right answer for yourself. But it is something that you need to think about. It's not only writing. Honestly, I don't think you will have any career of any substance without having to manage that personal side of your life in many ways. So this is, says it, enjoy what you're doing. Find what makes you happy. Now, here's the thing that I found out about myself. It's a strange discovery. I found out the better I did, the better I felt about myself. And the better I did. Honest, it just kind of one day I said, this really feels good. I'm excited about this. And I started doing more and do more and more. And it became like this. So you have to find whatever that makes you happy. You have to find that. I cannot tell you that answer. The issue of motivation, as I already mentioned, is one of the biggest problems many of us will have. You get excited early on, you have deadlines, you have the 10-year clock, and you have whatever is real motivation or whatever, there is pressure. All of these things make you produce, and produce fast, and produce a lot, correct? But then you run out of energy, you run out of ideas, you run out of, the database is becoming old. You need to kind of, you have published 15 papers on this topic. I don't know how many papers you need to publish, but this is a good number. I don't know why. So the issue of how do you keep yourself engaged in the enterprise. Enterprise meaning the research you're doing, the kind of work you're doing. How do you regenerate this? I found that actually writing with people, I write a lot with younger scholars, brand new scholars, PhD students I've never met before. They come and talk to me, and we end up talking about stuff. I've been happy about this. I benefit a lot, and I don't think my name really overshadows their name. Nobody knows my name, so it doesn't count. No, I'm just... Anyway, so it has been a good, I have had a number of brand new careers launched working with me, and I'm happy about this. They became famous in their own right. They became very well established nationally and internationally. I look with joy about this. But what they have done for me was to give me a lot of ideas, a lot of excitement, a lot of newness that I would have never been able to have. They also gave me new capabilities that I really was not trained, or they became old, or whatever. But a lot of people, you learn a lot of different things. Every new group of PhD students brings a number of different things that we have not studied earlier in our careers or our school. So that sort of, so being connected to people, writing with people, talking to people, going to conferences, having discussions, taking time to think about this, and keeping things in perspective. Failure is probably the most enduring quality of this profession. Nobody guarantees success, but failure is definitely a part of it. Failure to get acceptances, failure to get promoted in time, and so on. And many people have failed a number of times, but then they rebounded and they have made tremendous advances. Now, in the study of entrepreneurship, we glamorize failure, correct? We talk about entrepreneurs are persistent and they actually survive failures and they learn from their failure. I think we should also do the same thing in our in our own profession, and kind of take a different frame of reference and think about what this failure is. One way I actually found failure to be useful was to get all of the reviewers' comments that I accumulated over a period of time. I actually went through them, and it was painful, but I tried to look for the frequently mentioned reasons for rejection of my papers. They all looked obvious after the fact, but they persisted across different papers, across different journals, found like 4 or 5 things. Then I started focusing my attention on talking to people, okay, how you deal with this. I started selecting co-authors with that in mind. People are much better in econometrics, for example, or people writing better theory than I do. So I was able to learn at least a little bit from failure. So motivation is from within, for sure, but you can actually induce motivation and get excited about your work and sustain that. The issue of getting published and getting a few papers out and getting recognized for that is relatively easy, believe it or not. It's staying in the profession for a longer period of time and maintaining your productivity over a longer period of time is incredible. One of my best examples is somebody I've seen every single day for the last 11 years. I've been at the University of Minnesota for 11 years. So Andy Van de Ven, I don't know if you know the name or not. Andy, when I was a student, this was like the god of the field, kind of studying innovation. So when I moved there, I saw exactly why Andy was my beloved god, I guess, whatever it is.
Yoda.
Well, Yoda is not enough for him. This is a super god. Anyway, this guy, very well accomplished as he was, 8 o'clock he was in his office, 5 o'clock is in his office. During the lunch hour, you have his door is half open. He's talking to himself. He loves his computer. He's kind of hugging his PC and talking to her. You know, he has a name for her. And 24 hours, and almost every single day, you can hear him come in and come out, and you talk to him about anything. The secretary talks about his research. He will stand there and talk for hours about what he's working on. You never know anybody could be so excited about a damn piece of work that has been rejected 4 different times, you know what I mean? But this Andy, he's retired a year ago. He still comes every single day. He's doing exactly the same thing. When you see somebody like that next door to you, honestly, it's contagious. It's really exciting. It's motivating. The reason is he loves what he's doing. You know, he doesn't get, money does not motivate him anymore. We cannot afford to giving him infinite amount of money. And recognition, he's gotten all sorts of recognitions. It is what he really likes. That's the kind of stuff. He has an idea that he wants to share, and he loves doing that. So that motivation is the engine that keeps you going. The next part of the motivation is to stay motivated, actually, is to take care of yourself by making sure that you go back and look into your skills. There is no shame. Everybody's skills become outdated, not yours. Sharon, not yet, anyway. So let's just be optimistic. So you need to go back and be honest about that. And you can infer that you already know certain things by the time you read certain journals and you cannot understand them, you attend the presentations, you don't understand them, the reviewers telling you do this analysis that you never heard of, all of these things. You get all sorts of clues. All of these people talking about theory you never heard of. So I think it's time for you to kind of reflect, either by reading, talking to people, attending seminars, going back to school. I really think this is one of the things where a lot of people get stuck in the middle, where they do a lot of good things and then their capabilities kind of are kind of decaying. Or stuck on that kind of frame of reference. And even if they wanted to move into a different area, they kind of take their capabilities with them, and instead of looking into the area from a fresh perspective. So you need to go back and do a little bit of self-renewal, asking about where you are. Serve the profession, and I really believe this quite a bit. I remember my three names, I'm gonna all formerly from Texas A&M, Michael Head, Dwayne Ireland, and Bob Huskisson. So all of these people, I've known them for 25 years, about 25 years. When I was a PhD student, they really took me under their wing. I wrote with a couple of them. But the one thing that really impresses me, that you have tremendous publications, great citations, but the one thing that impresses me about the three of them, and they're very different, is how much time and energy they devoted to professional service. They served the academy in so many different ways. The interesting thing is, and that's one of the things I learned from them early on, one of them was talking, we're having dinner, and we're talking, he said, you get back more than what you give. I got a lot of these opportunities. They started giving me all of these examples, people calling them to do this, people invite them to do this paper, so they get a lot of other rewards. It's not only the intrinsic reward or the professional recognition, but there are many concrete things that come your way. I bet you some of the people who have been here, Peter, you know that this is true, correct? And there's a multiplier effect. I did a number of things for the entrepreneurship division. 2 years later, I got all of these invitations to do different things, and it put my name somewhere on this. It helps you. So you have a good selfish reason that, if you wanted to be selfish. This is probably what you all think about. How do you make a contribution and how you stay relevant? I really think that's a big debate. The question is not publications. Many people have a lot of publications. You need to actually have an impact. You need to make a difference. You make an addition to the literature that is beyond and above what we already know. So I heard this, I came in at the tail end of the last conversation, and people talk about outside letters and all of these things that committees do. In our school, which is a very tough environment, I am sure, we read every person's papers for promotion and tenure. Each of the full professors and associate professors, if we're reviewing a tenure case for an assistant, we read each and everything they have done. Independent of the outside reviewers, we don't know what the outside reviewers tell us until much later, until we have voted. We don't know anybody's evaluations of these papers. We know they have been all published in top journals, so that's nothing. We assume that's the case. We know that annually. We have a long tenure cycle of 8 years, so we evaluate them. And at year number 4, we really have an evaluation that is tougher than most schools in terms of tenure. This is not a promotion for the school, actually. I'm just trying to tell you how careful we are. And the fundamental question that we ask is, what is the person working on, and what difference does he or she make? It doesn't really matter to us what research question you choose, because we hire economists, we hire sociologists, we hire people from business schools, and the question becomes, so how intelligent your work is. Intelligent meaning, does it change our definition of the field? Does it bring a new conversation? Does it add new insight? So when I hear people say, I have this big database and I'm looking for people, I understand that. I've done that myself. But I think in our system, probably people, that would worry a lot of people. They will say, what is the idea you're working with? People know you by your idea. So you need to understand what the big conversations are in the field. Who is the big part of this conversation? What's the debate all about? Does it make any difference? Where you're going to come in and make a difference? In what ways? If I take your 5-6 papers, if that much, and I look back, what did we know when you started and where we are after you have done with this work? Does it make substantial difference or not? Of course, this is a matter of judgment, and everyone can construct his or her judgment. But believe it or not, people who are even from fundamentally different backgrounds know good work when they see it. They know when you are making a contribution. They can quibble on this and that, but they honestly understand that this is important work because that's the thing that you wanted to know. So when you talk about outside reviewers, for example, I think one of the things we look for from outside reviewers is essentially after the fact validation of our internal analysis, okay? Does the person make a contribution the way we conceive of his or her contribution? Does it matter? How will it change the conversation and the tenor of the field? That's really, really the big debate. So making a contribution is you need to focus on a research area. You need understand the research debates that are going on. Does it make a difference if the opportunities are created, or what's the other one? Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. So we had this debate, the created versus the other one. So somebody like myself can say, well, actually, these two are very not far removed from each other. That actually could be connected under these conditions. So you need to understand the debate. Does it make a difference? I think ultimately, without overdoing the joke, does it make a difference for the field if we can conceive of opportunities being created or discovered? I mentioned the word, okay, the D word, okay? So ultimately, it does make a lot of difference. And it makes a lot of difference, and in particular circumstances, it makes even more differences than otherwise. So it becomes a very different type of debate. But when you ask the question early on, people say, what does it mean? What do you mean? Yeah, opportunities are there. All you have to do is to go to the opportunity tree or opportunity store and shake a couple of branches and they will fall in your head. Einstein did that, correct? But actually, it's not that easy, correct? So, but once we have that debate behind us and we know that there are two sides to the debate, then we can look into the field differently. All of the work on opportunity recognition, opportunity evaluation, opportunity whatever. I don't like that work, by the way. I don't like anybody who contributes. No, sorry. I got him kind of scared a little bit. No, I like this work, but I'm just trying to tease you. After you do all of these things. Yes. That's for you, Sharon. So you look into all of this, and the field looks different after we have had this kind of debate. Very different from the assumption that everything is being discovered. Okay, so staying focused means try to connect your research and teaching and service. A lot of schools are able to do that. I'm the department chairman in my school, been doing that for a number of years now, and one of the things we try to do, especially for assistant professors, we connect your work with your research and your service activities to the extent we can with that, so that keeps you focused on doing your own work. As I mentioned, learn the big debates, big conversations in the field. For a few years ago, defining entrepreneurship was the big debate. I don't think a whole lot of people are writing about what entrepreneurship is. I think we have conceded that we don't know. Are you writing about it? Oh, this is wonderful. I hope you change our definition of the field. So people kept asking me, how do you define entrepreneurship? I said, it's what the reviewers like. You know what I mean? It's essentially what it is. We have conceded kind of that there is a set of different notions about the field. More or less we can understand them, but we're never going to be able to reconcile them. And we have moved forward with that. So that's not the big debate. The big debate is what do you do with that definition and what it means for your research and teaching. So you need to all of these things about the big conversation, what's all about, who are the big debaters, who are the big perspectives. What difference does this conversation make? So what will be a big debate right now or a conversation in entrepreneurship? Business models? So tell me what's the debate?
What the hell are they?
What the hell are they? So I've been hearing that for about 15 years now, correct? And business model innovation is really a big key dimension of that. There have been a number of reviews, special issues on that. And again, we arrive at the point where we actually started. And that's the big thing, the big issue here. How do you choose a research question that will take you away from where we started? So we don't keep going back to the same loop. Like that's part of the discussion about definition of entrepreneurship. We ended up going exactly where we disagreed. So you need to make a difference in that. So where do you think you're going to contribute? And really have to be this. A contribution does not always emerge in one paper. It might be multiple papers, and you need to provide that kind of frame of reference. What difference does that contribution make? How will we see the field differently after the fact? We can give examples. Again, we cannot see the field of entrepreneurship the same way since the definition by Chen and Venkatraman, correct? Whether you like their definition or not, the field, people cannot see the field in any ways. To make a significant substantive contribution, you need to understand the theoretical foundations and the roots of this debate. Okay, to do that, you need to know. This is one of the biggest deficiencies I see people having, is that you need to go back and study the original work, really study them. A lot of people cite Knight, for example. You cite Knight a lot. I know that you have read his work, okay? But a lot of people cite Knight. I know they are citing somebody who cited Knight 20 different years ago. Okay, they have never read the work, because if you know what Knight said, you would not say those kind of things and put parentheses Knight, whatever the year it is. You really need to go back to this. Reviewers know that. People who are really careful about the research, they know if you read the original work or not, because you invoke vocabulary and phrases and images and notions that are not in the original work. They know that this is bogus, correct? So if I wanted to trust your argument, you need to convince me that you know the material pretty well. And I think many of us actually, I found myself reading these works after I got rejections from the reviewers, because I've done exactly what I told you. I saw these reviews summarizing the debate, and guess what? I read those, and then I cited them, and then some of the clever reviewers said, no, not exactly. Look into page number so-and-so, the argument is this page so-and-so, and they caught me. So I had to go back and I read the reviews, and sure enough, I was exactly what they said, wrong. So, okay, you need to connect your work with the bigger conversations in the field. And that's one of the biggest problems people have in kind of establishing their contribution. Where do you contribute and how to make it part of the conversation? So standing there in the corner and saying, no, opportunities are created, opportunities are created, opportunities are created, that's one thing, but knowing where to connect opportunities are created to the discussion of where opportunities come from and what it means, that's a different type of conversation. So you need to be able to do that. So you need to communicate ideas well, and I know that they will be talking a little bit about this, and you need to test your ideas beforehand. And I want to talk about this because a lot of people are worried about sharing their ideas, and they kind of keep them to themselves. I actually found, I believe in the multiplier effect. I talk to people. People don't believe me anyway, so I tell them the truth, correct? And that's the best way to get around. Tell people exactly what you believe. They think you're either crazy or no, this cannot be the total truth. So tell people what you're asking. And honestly, people are generous. They give you a lot of ideas, either because they want it to sound important or want it to sound intelligent or they want it to be helpful.
Or they're so taken aback.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. So test your ideas. I find out that the more I talk to people about my ideas, and I, believe it or not, I talk to all sorts of people. It's not only intellectuals. I'm not going to get into this. You know what? Actually, it becomes much easier to sit down and write. All of the mental work is done, kind of. The idea is clear in your head. You know what people told you. You might not always believe that. So try to test your ideas. And one of the things about all of the doctoral consortia and all of the things we do is that we have people sitting down rather than talking to each other sometimes. And I think more of space in terms of talking, that is very important. So test your ideas vigorously, honestly. Try to get people who really you don't think are going to agree with you. Because some people, like I get a lot of people, I know you like this kind of work. Would you please look into my paper? Of course, I'm biased if this is the kind of work I do, correct? But you wanted somebody who is going to be critical, be analytical, and actually somebody will call you and say, here is the thing that I don't like about your paper. Have you thought about this? Have you read this article by so-and-so that actually can be used to motivate your argument differently? You wanted some honest feedback that will contradict what your original ideas are. Okay. Connect and collaborate, and I think we can talk about this for hours and hours. The reason I mentioned that, it gives you energy, it gives you resources, it opens opportunities, it keeps you alive, but it's a funnel of knowledge, ideas. I really find that to be one of the most useful ideas. I got some of the best ideas of my career from talking to people. Collaborators and otherwise. Some of them ended up being bad collaborators and the papers never got done. But I got the ideas and I moved forward with some of those things. So be selective in who you collaborate. And one of my colleagues is very fond of a phrase that he always uses in our discussion of different people. He said, it's the quality of the mind. You wanted somebody who have this attribute, the ability, the intelligence, this is not an intelligent test, but the insight to see creative ideas that will help you think about this. I know that they will be talking about how to write and publish today, so I noticed this. I put my slides before I even looked at the schedule. You need to learn to communicate. And we communicate. I'm not going to talk about the box. I'm talking about why do you need to write. There are different reasons we write. We wanted to communicate our ideas and get published and get money and get tenure and get all of the stuff. We want it to be read, to be able to understand our contribution and understand where we are, and also want it to be cited, and meaning that's at least a measure of influence in the field. So the idea is, writing might be a solitary experience. It's not all, it shouldn't be, by the way, but publishing and communicating your ideas is supposed to be for a greater impact, for the idea to have an influence and have relevance. You would never know if you succeeded or not without the feedback you get from the readers. And one way of being is being cited or people debating your ideas. So I had a paper many years ago about absorptive capacity, and it really got a lot of nice reception. And so couple of PhD students at Carnegie Mellon, I think, they did not like the paper, and they published the paper in AMR. So my co-author was like furious. And I actually said, this is really great. Somebody read our work. How many times we will have a paper that for... So I sat down, I counted the number of times they contradicted us in that little paper. The reply paper was like 10 pages. They mentioned our name 42 times. So I said, this, how many times, that doesn't count as citations, it's only one citation still. But you know, how many times people will type my name correctly, you know what I mean? I was very happy because I know that somebody has read my work. You know, it takes a little bit of energy there or whatever it is to get a couple of PhD students to work so hard to write a paper and so on. Stay engaged with the profession. That's the only thing that I can tell you again and again, to keep yourself energized, motivated, engaged, focused, and learning different skills.